As many of you on the channel will already know, we've recently got to play some Dragon's Dogma 2, which we were extremely excited about to say the very least. I'm sure many of you are in the same boat as us, having loved the first Dragon's Dogma game and now eagerly awaiting this new sequel. If you haven't played the original Dragon's Dogma, well, imagine if Monster Hunter was made as a single-player, high fantasy action RPG where you choose and switch between different classes as you explore a large open world filled with monsters, from small goblins to giant dragons, cyclopses and griffins, that you can take down in combat as you cast spells, sling swords, shoot arrows, and climb all over them to attack and disable weak points while completing quests and uncovering the story and lore of the world. So, after getting to play this new sequel, I figured you guys might be interested in my thoughts and opinions, having actually tried out the game and some of its systems, so let's go over what we thought. But firstly, I just want to point out the video footage used in this video will be a repeat of our previous coverage already on the channel, because we're only allowed to show a set amount, so I do apologise for the lack of contextual gameplay. This is all we have to work with for now. So, we went to the Capcom headquarters and got to try out a demo, of which there were 3 available save datas to try. Each one started from a different point in the game on a different vocation, which is this game's version of classes. We wanted to get as far as we could in each of these saves so that we could bring you guys as much gameplay and details as possible for each of these classes, hence the gameplay and skill showcase that we have on the channel, which will show you guys each of these starting classes as well as their skills, so hopefully that will be helpful for you to understand what they're like and which one you might want to pick first. We essentially had access to a level 5 archer, which was a more early story focused approach to the game, but also a level 15 warrior and thief to jump right into the action. Sadly, there was no mage outside of our pawns that were present, so we didn't get to play one. And switching vocations is in the game, but you need time to play and kill things to get points to switch, and since we wanted to try each of these saves out, we just didn't have enough time. Firstly, let's touch on the graphics. We do value graphical fidelity here, as it really helps with immersion and getting lost in the fantasy of a game. I saw a lot of people commenting how they thought it looked just like the first game, which honestly I just can't get on board with. While it still has the same style as the first game, it definitely looks better to me, and honestly felt and looked like a really nice world to explore in, kill giant monsters and do some quests. Sure, it could have looked better as a now current gen game, but I think there's something about the style of Dragon's Dogma that has its own charm, so for me, I like the way it looks. For the gameplay, this is a hard one to quantify because we didn't get to play a ton, especially having not played the advanced and hybrid vocations. We're basically going to be judging it too early, and it has been over a year since I did my last replay of the first Dragon's Dogma. Also, the Mystic Spearhand is looking so awesome, I really can't wait to try this, and I feel like the different type of hybrid vocation you play will really put a good spin on the game's gameplay. But essentially, from what I did get to play out of these starting classes, I can say it felt very familiar and quite easy to adjust to after just a couple of minutes playing. The abilities felt responsive, and climbing around the monsters was as fun as ever. Obviously, flying away on the monster like the griffin, which you may have seen on the channel, was extremely fun, and it was very surprising just how far it would actually fly away with us on it, all the way back across the map into its nest. There's definitely a level of skill that is needed for taking out these monsters without just getting destroyed, but you do have access to potions that restore your stamina or health that are pretty easy to do on the fly in combat. Basically, I wanted to get more hands-on time to try all the different skills, figure out which ones were really strong, as well as the different vocation augments and how they might synergize together, but we were of course limited. I think an important takeaway from my time playing is that there was a stark difference in the playstyle between the different vocations, from the archer to the thief and warrior, which is what you want out of these different vocations. Any OGs that have played the first game will remember that the strider was a starting vocation, but now that's been split into 2. It looks like they've done this to help define these 2 roles apart, with the archer focusing more on the ranged combat, while the thief focuses more on the fast melee dagger playstyle. To be honest, having played both of them, they felt very different and both very fun in their own right. But when I think of my time playing the original Dragon's Dogma, I did really like being able to switch between my bow and arrow and my double daggers on that same single class, so we'll have to see how this one plays out with their advanced and hybrid vocations. But overall, what I can say about the combat and the gameplay is that it felt as I would expect and was pretty telegraphed and tactile when doing attacks and abilities. Now we should talk about the map, because it looked very big from what I could see. I did a lot of zooming out and looking around, and the map was pretty huge, and it seemed like Pretty much everything you could see could be explored, but I haven't done that myself, we didn't have that much time, so don't take my word for it. That was just how it looked when I was observing the world, and then zooming out of the map, it really looked like you could go all over the place, and the map seemed very big once again. As you were exploring, traveling through the woods or going down different pathways, there was different encounters and enemies that you would bump into that did give it some life and some spice as you went around. There was also an interesting camp system where you could essentially rest and cook, and the cooking was crazy. Think of Monster Hunter World levels of cooking fidelity, but in Dragon's Dogma 2. I definitely left the demo wanting to play more and wishing I could have explored the cities more, fought more boss-style monsters that we know in the game from the trailers and all that good kind of stuff. I really think if you are a Dragon's Dogma fan of the first game, this game is going to be more of the same and what you want out of it. My hype levels for Dragon's Dogma 2 were very high, and after playing it, they are still up there. Of course, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, like what's going to be happening in the story, how long the game's going to be in that regard, just how many bosses and different varieties of monsters there are going to be, how the classes evolved into their advanced and hybrid versions, which is a big one for me because I want to be playing a class that feels extremely fun and flashy. That's just my preferred playstyle. But it does look like that will be there with the Mystic Spearhand and the Magic Archer, which was my go-to vocation in the first game that I would always build towards. There is no word on the Mystic Knight so far, but hopefully that will be in the game too. I really can't see them removing it, but we haven't had it revealed just yet. So all in all, as a big Dragon's Dogma fan, I was very pleased with what I got to play. But again guys, to disclaim, I only played it for a short period of time, so really only time will tell after we can get our hands on the full game and after we beat it. But hopefully that gets you caught up with our thoughts and impressions after actually playing it. And if you didn't see the videos we already made, they're on the channel, so definitely check them out and subscribe because you know we're going to have you covered for all upcoming Dragon's Dogma stuff. So check out these two videos on the screen and then tell us what you think after watching them in the comments down below.